Afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? Well, thank you so much for having me out today. My name's Reid Ryan. I'm with the Houston Astros, and it's incredible to get to be in this room with so many godly men today. And coming in here today, it kind of made me think about an old baseball saying. It's, in my business, you're only as good as your last pitch, your last game, or your last hot dog. People love you when you're winning. They love you when it's dollar hot dog night. The next day they're cussing me when they're paying, $6 for the same hot dog. So we won last night. We're 3 games in first place, American League West. We have 17 games to go, and I'm getting score updates right now. Still 0-0? All right, 0-0 in the first in Detroit. But it's actually a really good day to give a speech and to be with the Houston Astros. So thank you guys for having me here. And David, I will tell you, not only are you seeing more Astros stuff everywhere, but I'm proud to say, and I've not publicly announced this, but by the last totals that Major League Baseball keeps, the Astros actually were the #1 retail seller within the stadium in all of baseball, beating the Dodgers and the Yankees. So there's a lot of pride going on right now in Houston. Yeah. I have a board meeting next week. Don't think I'm not going to mention that. It's going to be good. I'm keeping my notes here and keeping a clock. So David reached out to me, said, can you come out and speak at the Toolbox launch? And I had never heard of this event at all. And I said, well, tell me, what is it you guys do? And he talked a little bit about starting as a Bible study and now having Christian speakers. And really said, give me something that's kind of a mix between your testimony and a little bit of, how you're a Christian leader. And that's a really easy spot for me. It's a perfect place for me to get to visit to people because I really believe this game of baseball has given me a platform that not everybody has to be able to profess my faith. And I do it in 2 ways, in words, but really in the way I lead my life and the actions I have as a leader. And it's the actions that everybody in this room has as Christians and as leaders in our community. People are watching what you're doing. They're watching every single day. And so yesterday, I know there's probably a bunch of people that saw me yesterday. I did the Work Faith Connection breakfast. I was the keynote speaker. Wade did a great job over there. Wade's around the corner there. But whenever I get an opportunity to speak to a men's group, Greg Mott's a good friend. I've done his breakfast group before. Or I'm a member at Second Baptist. I did the leadership event the other day. Those are always blessed opportunities for me because we all need encouragement. We need encouragement as leaders. We need encouragement as Christians. And so anytime I can go to an event with influencers, and this is a room full of influencers today, and hopefully lift you guys up as I share my story with you, I look forward to doing that. So a lot of people say, Reid, how'd you come to Christ? And I tell everybody, I grew up in the game of baseball. I'm blessed that, I grew up the son of Nolan and Ruth Ryan. Most people, know my dad is an Astro, but he played 27 years in the major leagues. And when I was born, he was with the Mets. He got traded that offseason to the Angels. My parents are from Alvin. They met. It's almost embarrassing to say this. When my mom was 13 and my dad was 15, my kids are like, gross. It's disgusting. They got married I think a week after my mom graduated from high school. My dad was with the Mets, and they gave him 2 days off to fly back to Alvin and get married. Never get married in baseball season if you're going to play 27 years. So if there's any, note to self, it's kind of hard to do that. But anyway, I tell people I grew up with my parents taking me to this incredible church that had monthly services. It was amazing. Wherever we showed up, there was a service going on. And I say that tongue in cheek because we sort of didn't have a regular church. The baseball life is like the military brat life. You move around. We would leave Alvin in February. We would go to Arizona. Back then, the Angels had training camp at this military base for 3-4 weeks. Then they would go to Palm Springs and they would play their games. And then we would go to Anaheim, and then we would come back to Alvin in October. And we were always moving, checking in and out of schools and checking in and out of churches and everything else. But what was interesting was that they always made it a priority to go, no matter where we were. And so even though we weren't a regular member of a congregation, I did grow up going to Alvin Methodist Church, First Methodist in Alvin, but they always made a point of going. And it had a very, very, impactful, meaning on my life. And the reason that I say that is because in 1979, I'm a kid, I'm 8 years old, we're living in California. And if you had asked me about Christ, I probably would have shared some Bible stories, been able to tell you who Jesus was, tell you about Noah and the ark and a couple other things. But I did not have a deep understanding of my faith. But in 1979, my dad was playing in Boston, and I had just gotten my first ever Villa Park Pee Wee uniform. I tell my kids, my kids are so spoiled now, you're 12, and if there's anybody with Post Oak Little League in here, these other, 12 jerseys, name on the back, we got a t-shirt and a cap, and that was it. We wore jeans, and we didn't even get a helmet. We had, 2 leather things that protected your ears. You guys know what I'm talking about. Playing in jeans. Those were the good old days. So I had my first ever Villa Park Pee Wee shirt, and we didn't have team names. You were either orange, red, yellow, green, whatever. So we're out in the front yard playing hot box. I don't know if anybody remembers that game. It's like pickle, you just practice getting in a rundown. Nobody does that anymore. No kids do that. They're all playing video games. So we're out playing rundown, and these kids, older kids on bicycles, pulled up and kind of started making fun of us, and they were bullies, and this kid grabbed my jersey and was going to try to rip it off my head, and at the time it's the most valuable thing in your life, and so I just broke from this kid and tried to run home across the street. And a girl that was 16 years old had just got her license, turned the corner and ran me over. And I remember waking up in the middle of the street with my leg going sideways, the paramedics, cutting my pants off me, and just praying to God, God, do not let me die. Do not let me die. It's just all I could say. And I was in shock, but what did I go back to? I went back to God and just praying to him not to let me die. And I was very blessed. My life was saved. I lost my left kidney and my spleen, broke my femur, my ribs. I ended up being in the Children's Hospital of Orange County for 10 weeks. And when you're 8 years old and you're in the Children's Hospital for 10 weeks with no cable TV, no video games, nothing but coloring books, it was like being in purgatory, But at that moment on, I felt like if I ever got out of that hospital, that, God had a plan for my life. And I felt like the old saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I really had a belief that I had a plan, a manifest destiny, that God had something important for me to do in my life. And yesterday I spoke at the Breakfast for Work Faith about my own personal issues with faith have been always fighting what I want versus what God wants. And every time I go down that road, he gently nudges me back to where I need to be. And I have a ton of examples over the course of my life, and I won't go into those today, but it's a struggle. He's been so good to me in every single thing I've done that I've trusted him, whether it's my wife, my kids, my church. I can tell you when I took this job with the Astros, I was living in the Austin area. I had started a team called the Round Rock Express, wildly successful. I had started another team called the Corpus Christi Hooks. My brother and I had started a bank. We now have 8 locations. We're about $500 million in assets. We had started and sold several businesses, and my kids were going to a school in Austin called Brentwood Christian School, K through 12. And I was in the perfect place in my life. And even though this was a childhood dream to come home to Houston and get to lead the team that I grew up loving and following, when Jim Crane offered me the job, I had a lot of second thoughts and actually turned it down the first time he offered it to me, because I did not want to pull my kids and my family, and because of all of the past experiences of trying to follow what I wanted versus what I thought God wanted for me. And so my wife was incredible. She said, look, this is like 2 days and you're miserable. That's a sign. We need to go do this. The kids need to go do this. And they cried and they didn't want to leave Austin, the whole deal. And after about 6 months at Second Baptist School, my daughter was like, if you ever move us from this school, I'll kill you, So, right when I think I'm figuring it out, I find out all the time I'm not. It's a battle every single day. But what I want to do is go back to a little bit of Christian leadership. What I've tried to do with the Houston Astros is be a servant leader. I've tried to use the examples of Christ and how he led his life to try to lead me in everything that I do. And when I got to the Astros, it was a broken place. Change is hard. The switch over from Drayton McLean to Jim Crane had not been easy. You look at I was the third president in like 2 years. We had multiple general managers, multiple managers. We changed leagues. We lost our TV partner. We went through this bankruptcy. We had a different radio station. I mean, just anything and everything that could have been difficult was. And lots of good people had been flushed out of the Astros during that time period. And so when I got in the building, trust was broken. People were like hiding behind their desk. I always think of Office Space, that one guy that got fired but still keeps coming back for like, years. Like there were people like that in the building, and it was just a terrible place. And so I said, look, what we need to do here is we need to build trust amongst our employees, trust amongst the fans, trust amongst the community, because I don't think many people believe the plan that Jim Crane had would either yield fruit or was his true intention. And that's one of the greatest things about winning the World Series and all of the steps we had along the way, was that we've earned and validated this plan along the way. But going back to that time that I walked in the building, the first thing that I wanted to do is I said, look, we don't have a mission statement. Like, as the Astros, as simple as that sounds, we don't have a mission statement. And the mission statement that we came up with, and I want to share it with you today, it's not just about winning. We have winning in there, and I'll read it to you. It's, the Astros' mission is to strive to win championships, deliver memorable experiences, and make Houston proud. That is our mission statement, because every decision we make is, how do we try to build a team that's going to win a championship? It's not going to happen every year. It may not happen this year. We've got a really good shot. You got to have a shot to get to the dance before you're going to win a championship. But we could have lost to the Yankees last year. We could have lost to Boston. We could have lost to the Dodgers. It all went our way. But we were in a position to win a championship. And we're in a position this year to win another championship. We need to deliver memorable experiences. That's really the secret sauce of baseball. I love our game for so many reasons, but the most important reason is it spans the generations. It gives fathers and sons something to talk about. It's the front porch of our community. It's one of the only places when you go to a game at Minute Maid Park that you go to visit with your neighbors for 2 to 3 hours. There's just not much of that left today. I know my kids, they're like at dinner, I'm like, everyone is looking at their phone. Everyone put their phone down, Quit looking at your phone. So it's a place that's our front porch. So we want to deliver memorable experiences. Whether we win or lose the ball game, we want you to remember, I went to that game with my grandpa before he passed away. I went there on my first date. I took my son there to his first game, and we got a certificate and we got a photo. That's what our sport's all about, is delivering memorable experiences. And last, we want to make Houston proud. And it's hard. It's hard because everybody in Houston has a different belief. People in Houston have different things that they value in their lives. But when we win a championship, strangers are on the street high-fiving and people are hugging, and everybody has a pride in where they live. And I think our team represents this community because this is an incredible place. Today, the turnout, yesterday, the breakfast, 900 people at Work Faith. This community loves to give back. I think what was incredible about Harvey and incredible about the World Series was when we had an opportunity as a community to loot and riot and bring out the worst of people and humanity and mankind. That didn't happen in Hurricane Harvey. And you look at what happened in Philly after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. We didn't loot and riot here in Houston when we won the World Series. And how many people have watched this club their whole life, 56 years? And so, those mission statements go back to what our core principles are. And when our employees make a decision, I want them to have these core principles at hand. And I am not a micromanager. We hire great people, we get out of their way, and we let them do their job. We ask that they just base their decisions on trust, excellence, and integrity. And I think trust is what's missing from our society today. People don't trust our politicians, they don't trust our corporations, they don't trust our governments, because everyone's been spun, they've been lied to. And so individual trust, building that on a daily basis in your communities, in your schools, with your employees, with the people in your church, is going to make America a better place. And so when we say something as the Houston Astros, we want people to know that it's the real deal. And I think slowly over time we've done that. And I tell people the Colby Rasmus signing might have been the moment of trust for us. Believe it or not, as crazy as Colby was and as wild as he was, because people actually said, oh, look, those guys are spending money. They're going to go to try to win. And we got to the wild card in 15 and we beat the Yankees that had a payroll of 5 times as much as us, and we took the Royals. I believe we could have won the World Series in 15. If Carlos catches that ball and it doesn't tip-off, Sips Glove. We had the momentum. We could have easily won the World Series in 15 as well. But that's baseball. It didn't happen that year. It happened for us in 17. And excellence. I think all we can do is strive for individual excellence every single day. You know what? We're never going to have the assets that the Yankees have. We're never going to have the assets that the Dodgers have. But can we just be the best Houston Astros we can be? Can we just strive for personal excellence in everything we do? And if we do that, I'll take my chances with this club and this city every single day, every year. And we're going to win our fair share, and you know what? Some years we may not. But we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, we did the very best job we can do. And then integrity. I think every single thing we do as an organization needs to be filled with integrity. And look, we make decisions all the time that open up ourselves to take shots. And we took some this year with one of the players that we brought in. But at the end of the day, we have belief in what it is we're doing. And we have a belief that our team can go out and make Houston a better place, and that we can take a player and that we can make him a better person. And so we try to strive to have personal integrity in everything we do. So the Astros are influencers. We take that very seriously. You look at people on our team. Jose Altuve is an influencer in this community. He's someone that elicits pride in folks because he's undersized, because he's from a place that signed when he was 15, that nobody thought he would ever get out of Venezuela and even make it to the States. His work ethic is tremendous. He plays hurt, as he's doing right now. He's an incredible teammate. Jose Altuve is what makes the Astros great. Alex Bregman, he makes the Astros great. This is an example of a great teammate, somebody that went and learned Spanish so that he could be a better teammate to his players on his team. Tony Kemp, a Vanderbilt guy, one of my favorite guys on the team. He's making Houston great. The guy will play anywhere. He was a second baseman. He's moved to the outfield. He's a utility player. He'll come off the bench. He'll do whatever we ask. It reminds me of Craig Biggio in a lot of ways, of moving from catcher to second to center field. He's making the Astros great. And I think you look at what we've done for charity through our Astros Foundation, whether it's the community leaders fields we've had, whether it's helping the homeless problem around Houston, whether it's what we did in Hurricane Harvey, we're using our platform to try to make Houston great. I feel like our team last year gave the city hope when they needed it most. And, we're a true uniter of the community. And so for a lot of years, we did a lot of talking. But the last couple of years, we've really tried to do the walking. And so that's my thing today. It's an old cliche, but if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And I know the people in this room do that as Christians and as leaders. And I think the perfect example, and it was mentioned yesterday by Sandy at the Work Faith Connection, was that when we won the World Series, we gave 2,000 rings out to our employees. Everybody from the ushers to the Airmark workers to the guys that clean the bathrooms to the grounds crew to Jose Altuve, which he probably should have got one, and George Springer, since he was the World Series MVP. But we did that because we wanted every person in our organization to know that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and it literally took everybody in this rebuild to help us bring this World Series to Houston. And so, I'll end today with a couple things I wrote down. We're blessed because I'm able to use some of the principles of Christ in my daily business that a lot of people that aren't Christians watch and know and love, and maybe that's their first step to a life that Dave talked about. So I feel like the example that we're leading in the community is important. And, we're also proud because we have a thing called Baseball Chapel. It's something that was important in my life growing up as well. Every team has a chaplain, and on Sundays they have service within all 160 minor league teams and all 30 major league teams, because our guys do play on Sunday, and they need someone to talk to. And our chaplain is a guy named Kevin Edelbrock. He's been with the team several years. We also have a Spanish chaplain. And this team, which I'm sure is not going to be, surprising to most, has a lot of guys that go to Baseball Chapel. And I think when someone can humble themselves before the Lord, they can also humble themselves to the game of baseball and to the fans and the position that they're in. And so it should be a fun year this year. We got a shot with 17 games left. Are we winning or losing right now? 0-0 still. So we're tied. But really, if I had one ask, I need somebody to go over there and disrupt the A's, because we cannot shake these guys. They are like a bad ex-girlfriend. They just keep hanging around, and we cannot get rid of these guys. I was thinking of Dave when he said that. That's the only thing. So, but anyway, I'd love to open it up to questions. If anybody had any questions about the Astros, my walk in faith, or anything else today, we've got some time left here. So I'd love to do it.
Update on your dad. How's he doing? Is he doing well?
So yeah, great. He asked about my dad. A lot of people said, like, where's Nolan? We haven't seen Nolan this year. My dad lives in Georgetown, and he normally comes in for every weekend game. He and my mom love it. He's still got a place down in Brazoria County that he runs cattle on. He will be 72 in January, and during June he got vertigo real bad, and he couldn't drive. So nobody really kind of saw him in June. And then recently, after 27 years of pitching and 50 years of ranching, he decided bone on bone in his knees was probably not the best way to go for the rest of his life. So he got a knee replacement about a month ago, and he's slowly getting back from that. And he feels great. His back has kind of been bugging him a little bit. And so until he kind of gets where he can drive 3 hours and sit at a ball game and walk around, I don't know that we'll see him. So I don't think he's coming in this weekend, but I'm hoping next week. But thank you for asking. Yes, sir.
For a great message this afternoon. You know your dad is a great ambassador of baseball and certainly a great student. Could you speak a little bit to us about your knowing that and as a husband?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. I'm so blessed to have my dad as a father. A lot of times when I meet people, they're like, man, I kind of expected you to be a real jerk, And I'm like, I don't know why, but that happens, my dad was the youngest of 6 kids, and his mom and dad both worked 2 jobs, and they wanted every one of their kids to go to college. And all of my dad's brothers and sisters are all college grads. In fact, several of them are professors now, and they really valued education. But the other great thing about my grandpa and grandma, and my grandpa died before I was ever born. He was a 2-pack-a-day guy, and died extremely early in life. Was when my dad would do something, my grandma Ryan would always say, "Are you proud of your son?" And she'd go, "I'm proud of all my kids." And then she would go off on like all the other ones and what they're doing. And so he always instilled in us, like, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're, the guy working on the grounds crew or you're the pitcher, you're no better than anybody else. You just have to do a hard day's work, a good day's work, and do your part to be the best you can be. And then he also never, pressured me to try to follow in his footsteps. I wanted to. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. That didn't work out. But when that door closed, the door of being a minor league owner and eventually being the president of a major league club opened, and I could have never have dreamed that big. I mean, I didn't dream about ever being in this position. But he always made me feel really good because he said, hey, look, you don't have to live up to what I've done. Just do what makes you happy and do the very best job you can do. And I tell folks, my dad's the second best athlete in the family. The best athlete's my mom. She was the 1965 state doubles champ for UIL and still plays at a 4 or 5 level. And she plays like 3 days a week at 70 years old. So there's no one more competitive than Ruth Ryan. Like, do not play board games with her, She, because it's lose-lose. If she wins, she'll gloat, and if you win, then she's gonna be mad, and then the rest of the weekend's ruined. So just don't even get into it. But yeah, I was blessed, and my dad has been incredible because he always made it a point to bring the family on the road, and I had so many incredible childhood memories of traveling with the Astros and being on team planes and going on the road, and him catching me in the bullpen and encouraging me. And he probably only saw me play 2 games ever of baseball because he was playing, but he came to every basketball game, and he was always there to try to help me out when I needed help, and especially when I got into minor league baseball, just being able to talk to me on the phone every night. Yes, sir.
It's probably a joke question, but they all seem it's a very cohesive team. They all love playing baseball together, but then you had Justin Verlander and Garrett Colby, the new players that come in, and so there's probably something behind the scenes that I guess I'd be curious about, how they all come in and blend in and be a part of that.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest challenge we have, and I'm going to be honest, it's been tougher this year as the guys have more success and more people pulling at them and more demands on their time, whether it's to be in HEB commercials or to make appearances or whatever. All that just kind of ends up adding up. It's kind of like college. When you develop guys from within the minor leagues and they've been on the buses and they've been in the small towns and they've come up 5 guys share an apartment and stuff like that, there's a real bond. And you see that bond amongst our core guys that have all come through the system. And then I think the key for us is really A.J. Hinch. He's such a great manager of people. He does an incredible job on the field with the X's and O's, but really I think his true value comes with handling all the egos. And I'll give you the perfect example is Evan Gaddis. I mean, Tyler White has been a lifetime 300 hitter. Tyler's been up with us the last couple years. But when a young guy comes up, and even if you look at, what happened with our outfielder that came up this year at 21, Tucker, sorry. Kyle, I was thinking of Preston, his brother, who's not with us anymore, but when Kyle came up, he really struggled because young players want to show everybody they belong. And this is the first opportunity that really Tyler White has had to play every day. We had everybody hurt, and AJ was like, look, just go out there and play. And he showed the true Tyler White, and he's been a lifetime 300 hitter, and he's been on fire. But his success has been, at the expense of Gaddis's playing time. But Gaddis is the first guy off the bench, and AJ grabbed him the other day and was like, hey, man, we're going to get you in one of these games. He said, Tyler's just too hot, and I got to ride him. He goes, heck yeah, you got to ride him. The kid's incredible. He's like, I'm enjoying watching him. That's right. And when Evan got in the other day, he hit a home run. It was great, but he's still not playing anymore. And that kind of team first comes from everybody knowing their role and not having to guess where they are. And if AJ isn't talking to Gaddis and just ignoring him, then Gaddis is starting to think, well, when am I going to play? What do they think about me? Are they going to trade me? Are they going to release me? Am I going to be on the playoff roster? And all of a sudden, all these things start going through guys' heads. But when you pull guys aside and you say, hey, here's the game plan. Here's where you fit in. And I think the best thing he does is with our pitchers, making sure those guys know, like, hey, tonight I need you ready in the 8th because if Ohtani comes up, we're going to use you and bring you in and go left on left, Tony Sipp. So he's really, really good about doing that kind of stuff. Yes, sir.
Reid, everybody obviously loves the team, but I think they love the character of the players more. Talk about the challenges of what it's going to be like to keep the team together with all the success.
Yeah, so Jeff Luna, our general manager, has built this club. He's the architect of the team, and he and his guys have done a tremendous job of finding talent and cultivating talent. But I think the thing that Jeff is best at is he's extremely disciplined, and that is we probably will not be able to keep every one of these players, but we need to make the decision on who are the core guys that we want to have be a part of our team long term, and then we have to have wave after wave of guys coming up. And seeing a Tony Kemp and a Tyler White do well, knowing that 5 of our teams, we only have 5 teams that play under lights. The other ones play like at noon in the Dominican Republic or at Gulf Coast on a backfield. All 5 of those teams made the playoffs in the minor leagues. We've already had 2 win championships, and our AAA team is playing in the championship right now. So we're extremely deep. When Framer Valdez comes up, people have never even heard of him. Josh James comes up, he's throwing 100 miles. Nobody's even heard of him. They've heard of, Whitley and, Corbin Martin and, Farrell and some of these. Nobody's heard of these guys. We have so much talent that we have to be disciplined to be able to stay within that budget that we're going to have. And we're going to be, I believe, top half of the league in payroll. I think we'll continually be that way, but we have to be disciplined because we can't afford a mistake like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox can afford a mistake. And so, hopefully we'll keep the ones that we need to keep. We've got Altuve locked up. We've got some of these other guys locked up for several years. And then, the next couple of years, these waves of players will be coming off, and we just won't be able to keep them all. But we'll have to replace them with guys that are equal talent and equal people. Yes, sir.
You talked about the job that you're now being greater than your wildest dreams. Could you share a little bit about how your actions and your faith in God have helped materialize that?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting question. What I love about the game of baseball is that we bring joy to people's lives. And I think to truly be happy in whatever you do, you have to feel like you're making the world a better place. And we've been in a lot of businesses. And for example, the banking business. I love the banking business because people come to us because they're wanting to start a business or they're wanting to, send their kid to college or they're needing a car that's going to get them to their job or whatever it is. You're really improving people's lives. And with a game of baseball, what we have, people give us their 2 most valuable things, their time and their money. and their time's more valuable than their money because that's a precious commodity that all of us are having pulled at us. So we have to honor that as the Astros, and it's why I think you see us have such a great experience at the ballpark. I challenge our people. We have to entertain, whether we're winning or losing. We need to hand people a promo item when they come in. You know, we need this place to be clean. We need to make sure they have lots of options for everybody in the family. And if we do our job, people leave Minute Maid Park. When they walk in, whatever's bugging them, hopefully they came in and forgot it for 3 hours, and when they walk out, they feel better about themselves and their community. Let me see, on one or two more, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes, sir?
The decision to give away rings to all the help that you cited, ARA, workers, etc. I would think that was a relatively easy decision. But the decision to give away to all the fans and replica rings, who made that? What was the basis?
So I'll give you, it's a pretty interesting story. So I've been around, this is my 20th year in working in professional baseball. And the replica ring is a very big deal. So when we won the World Series, you know, and look, my job's to fill the ballpark. We're like, first off, timeout. We are not giving out the rings, unveiling the banner, and doing all that in one night. This is going to be a week. We're going to milk this bad boy for all we can, okay? So like the first night was opening night, and then we had the ring ceremony, and then we had the trophy promo, but the ring giveaway, we wanted it to be it's a real ring. It looks exactly like it. It weighs the same amount. I mean, it's the highest priced item we've ever bought as the Houston Astros. And so we gave 10,000 of them away, which is our normal reason, you know, normal number. Now people go, why do you give away 10,000? Greatest challenge I have as the operator of Minute Maid Park is with all of the new security measures we have, because we have to go to a Homeland compliant, basically the same as the airport, for getting people in and out. Is people are accustomed to showing up 15 minutes before the game and getting in. Now it's double the attendance, and we have all these new Astro fans coming to the games. And so anything we can do to get people there early gets about a fourth of the attendance in the gate before the mass of people come. So that's why we do 10,000. We actually want people lining up because it gets them there early. Well, folks started camping out like the night before, and we had to say, like, you can't camp out. And we knew we had an issue on our hand because there were people doing the math, and they're like, I'm not getting a ring, and I've been out here, you know, for 12 hours, and I hate you. You know, I mean, like, it got violent. And so I went into Jim's office, Crane, and we're like, man, we got an issue here. And Jim's like, I don't want these people lining up. And he's I'm like, whoa, you know, anyway, long story short, we're like, we're going to do another one. And so we're going to give one to everybody. That way we figured, you know, it's kind of like a bogey. Everybody that was in line that didn't get one, they can come back and get another one. Well, 40,000 people got them. And then I had a whole nother group of people that were like, we didn't get one. And I realized, holy cow, this thing is really popular. So at that point, we made the decision that we were going to try to give away one every month. But one, these things are made by hand. The replica rings are made in China. It takes them a while to get over here. And so the last thing you want to do is announce a bunch of dates, and then you cannot deliver the rings. So we didn't announce the date until we had in hand what we could give away. But the goal was to try to do one every month. But we had to give ourselves enough wiggle room that if the shipment didn't come in, then we, you know, didn't have egg on our face for making an announcement of a ring giveaway that didn't happen. And we actually had some issues with production. It's the reason that we ended up having two this last homestand. The Monday game coming up, and then the last game of the year will both be ring giveaways. And we've had people from all over the state in Louisiana, Arkansas. I've met people that have driven in from all over the place to come get these things. And it's because they're real rings, and I think that just shows you the power of the Astros brand and how many people have followed this team for so long. Okay, final question in the back. Yes, sir.
Yes, can you tell us about your transition from a player to ultimately being an executive, and how your experience in the minor leagues and your knowledge gained, how did that contribute to you being a successful businessman?
Okay, yeah, so the first minor league game I ever went to, I played in it. And I had never been to a minor league game. I grew up in the big leagues, you know, all over the place. And so I get to play in the old Southwest Conference, and we had some great stadiums at A&M in Texas and places, but I really didn't know what I was getting into until I got into the minor leagues. So my very first game, I'm in Hudson Valley, which is Poughkeepsie, New York, brand new Class A affiliate. And they had a storm that winter, and they were trying to build the stadium. So we had no locker rooms, And in fact, both teams had to warm up in the same bullpen because they had only built one bullpen. And that's awkward when you're sitting there next to the guy you're competing against. So anyway, this team had a bunch of older guys. And what happens is in spring training, when the club breaks, everybody goes to their team, big leagues, AAA, AA, A-ball, but there's always about 10 guys left back that really aren't good enough to make the team. But if somebody gets hurt, they have to have fillers before the June college and high school draft happens. And so these guys were on our team, and they knew, like, hey, we're all going to get released in the next couple days. And so I had a guy named Dom Gotti from Adelphi University. This guy was hilarious, and he's up. First game I've ever been to a minor league game, and he gets hit in the head, not a funny thing. And he goes down, and man, everybody's like, oh, this guy's killed. Trainer runs out with the smelling salts. Everybody's looking at him, and gets up, and he kind of gives the okay, and then he ran to third base. And so, of course, everybody's going nuts in the stands, and as he ran across the field, he was giving us this one right here, and I go, what happened? He goes, oh, man, I always wanted to do that my whole career, and I finally got hit in the head. And he was gone a couple weeks later, but he got his moment in the sun, getting hit in the head. I was like, this is fun. This is extremely fun. And was it great baseball? No, it was terrible baseball. In fact, one of my favorite stories was my second year. We had a manager named Mike Berger, and Mike's been assistant GM with the Pirates. He was our manager, and he was a little bit of a wild card. I'm just going to be nice to him. And so there's 160 minor league teams. That's 30 AAA, 30 AA, 100 A-ball. Out of those, every year there's one team with a worse record. I was on that team. It was terrible, okay? We had lost like 10, 11 games in a row, and he had a team meeting, and we had a guy on our team named Fernando Tatis, who ended up being a decent big league player. His son's actually playing now in the major leagues. And he came in and said, let me tell you guys something. The only reason you 24 guys are here is so Fernando Tatis can play Vladimir Guerrero, and don't ever forget it. And I went, he's right, maybe I'm in the wrong business, But still, you keep trying. And, it was a tough day. The day I walked into spring training and my jersey was gone, and you realize, hey, I've got to do something with the rest of my life. And luckily, I had an education to fall back on. I had great parents. I went to work with the Rangers up in Arlington doing some TV work for them, and one night I just had this epiphany that I wanted to go back to Austin. I had played 1 year at UT and wanted to bring professional baseball and all those funny, great experiences that we had to Austin, because UT draws great and people love the Longhorns, but once May hits, there's no baseball in June, July, and August, and there's a lot of folks that are looking for things to do. And what I love about minor league baseball especially is it introduces the game to a lot of people for the first time in markets that don't have Major League Baseball. And so it was an easy transition. It was not an easy process to find a team, buy a team, move a team, build a stadium. That's a whole nother speech for another day. But at the end of the day, we bring joy to people's lives, and there's been tremendous memories made at those ballparks. And I'm proud that I've got to have a small part in growing the game of baseball in Austin and Corpus Christi and around the state with the work we've done. Anyway, thank you guys very much. Y'all have a great day, and God bless.